Okay, we're ready for our next session. And this is, I'm very excited about this session because this is something that came up in our annual conference call with the group. We were talking about digital strategy and what exactly is a digital strategy? What is artificial intelligence? What is machine learning? And we put this expert panel together, and I think they're going to go ahead and hopefully answer some of those questions for us. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our moderator for this session, Bob O'Connor.
Good morning, everybody. Buckminster Fuller, who created the knowledge curve, noticed that in 1900, human knowledge doubled approximately every century. By the end of World War II, knowledge was doubling every 25 years. Today, knowledge doubles approximately every 13 years, and with the advent of the Internet of Things, IBM has predicted human knowledge will soon double every 12 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in unprecedented, fascinating times. According to Forbes, there are 2.5 quintillion bytes of data collected each day, and 90% of the data in the world was collected in just the past 2 years. According to Intel co-founder Gordon Moore, processing power will continue to double every 2 years into the foreseeable future. Our world, including the business world, has never seen power, capability, and intelligence as we see it today. According to the Journal of Evolution and Technology, processing power and memory capacity to match the general performance of the human brain will be available in cheap machines sometime in the 2020s. While currently our computers quietly accept and build databases through the likes of Facebook, Google, Instagram, and loyalty programs, soon, very soon, they will begin to understand our world and us like never before. In my lifetime, I have never seen the pace of change within our industry as I do today. Change going forward, at least respect to technology, will come as a freight train, creating both opportunity and despair. For those who embrace and deploy new technologies, I see better days on the horizon. For those who fail to embrace its unique and powerful capabilities, like Kodak, I see failure. I predict that in the not too distant future, a wearable device will begin to transform the retail experience at physical stores. Through the magic of augmented reality and with artificial intelligence operating in the background, I believe our lives and our need to shop will once again be fundamentally transformed. For those of you who do not already know, augmented reality is the ability to superimpose a computer-generated image on a user's natural view of the real world. Let me give you a fun example of how I might view this technology working in a C-store. You're going to have to imagine with me a little bit, and we're going to have to put on, today's September 10th, 2019. We're going to the year 2030. Let's say hypothetically then, your name is Frank, and the year is 2030, and you're riding in your self-driving hydrogen vehicle. You are wearing the most fashionable and powerful wearable ever conceived by Google. Let's call this wearable Google Glass Squared. These fashionable, powerful glasses are capable of superimposing a computer-generated image within your view of reality. It's fun, it's entertaining, and boy, is it captivating. Let's hypothesize that you are a veteran with a unique and great respect for General Patton. In fact, you have made several posts regarding his leadership and his heroism. Today is gloomy, and you have been behind the wheel for hours. You are a diabetic, and your smartwatch recording personal data parameters predicts you are just a little depressed. It is between your normal meal times. Digitally noting your need for a driving break and an uplift in mood, that beautiful Google voice says, "Frank, it's time for a break, and there's someone I would like you to meet inside a store which is just 3/10 of a mile ahead. Shall I turn in?" You accept, and as you walk into the store, to your delight, a computer-generated image of General Patton appears before your eyes on the screen of your glasses. He waves you in with a big smile and walks you through geolocation to the candy rack. Since chocolate is a mood uplifter and you are diabetic, he points out both the special dark candy and the Reese's peanut butter cup, apparently both better candy choices for diabetics. Because the special dark is part of a loyalty program and is lower priced, a gold badge appears over the bar on your glasses. You select the special dark bar. As you pocket the candy bar, General Patton gives a quick attaboy nod for selecting the special dark. He then says, "Follow me," and while driving his Jeep to the coffee bar, states a quick fact about how important coffee was to the war effort. Reaching the coffee bar, General Patton points to the large coffee and as you hesitate says, "That's an order." Walking through the cashless exit, the transaction is recorded while General Patton gives a quick nod and a quick salute. Finally, the Hershey reward cash is automatically transferred to your Vanguard S&P 500 stock index fund, where it will continue to grow in value. What just happened there? 1. Google predicted as a result of drive time, weather, and personal physical parameters that Frank was most likely tired and getting somewhat depressed. To elevate mood and to address fatigue, Google suggested a nearby stop. Since it was not Frank's normal mealtime, Google suggested a snack. That was chocolate for mood elevation and a caffeinated drink to address fatigue. 2. Since Google knew Frank was a diabetic with an acute love for chocolate, it suggested the special dark and Reese's peanut butter cup, both better for diabetics than other candy choices. 3. Since Hershey's sponsored a discount on the special dark, Frank elected for their offer, and Hershey's was rewarded with the sale. 4. Since Hershey loyalty discounts were deployed, and since their loyalty connected with a financial aggregator, Frank's life will be financially enhanced through his new candy bar investment. 5. Frank's mood is elevated. He has taken a needed break. He has been offered a more healthy choice. He has been entertained throughout the course of his purchasing journey. He now walks away with a newfound appreciation for his hero, General Patton, adds a new joke to his memory, and enjoys a larger investment account. 6. A C-store that never would have seen this customer is rewarded with multiple sales and a smiling customer through a frictionless transaction. In addition to selling products, Google has allowed the store to prevent a life-enhancing experience. With new technologies in the waiting and processing power growing at unprecedented rates, computers are about to transform our world in ways we cannot even yet imagine. Through their power, we will become amazed, enthralled, and encouraged. Like smartphones, which didn't even exist until 1992, new, fascinating, fun, smart technologies will suck us all in. Get ready, because here it comes. And now it's my pleasure to introduce 3 people who will tell you their unique story as it relates to the world of the technology and the power that it holds here in 2019. First, we have Paul Roetzer, who is the founder and CEO of the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute. Second, we have Doug Haugh, who's president of the Parkland Fuel Group. And finally, we have Pat Lewis, who is partner of Oasis Stop N Go. So, Paul, do you want to go ahead?
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. I'm kind of terrified, and I know what's going on with this stuff now. So, I own a marketing agency. My background is actually, like Melissa earlier, I came out of journalism school at Ohio University in 2000 and ended up starting a marketing agency in 2005, and around 2011 started trying to understand artificial intelligence. It's when IBM Watson won on Jeopardy, if any of you remember that, when he beat Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter. And I started trying to understand what is this technology and what implications will it specifically have on marketing. And so I would spend an hour, hour and a half actually figuring out the paths for the deliveries, and then I would actually go make the deliveries. So I would spend more time figuring out where to go than I was actually doing the deliveries. This was before Google Maps existed. So now, if I wanted to do the same thing, I would go grab my cookies and I would just put in the first destination and maybe a couple of the next destinations, and it would route me. And then as I'm driving, it'll reroute me based on the optimal route. What's happening is Google is making predictions in real time based on data. It's taking in the data around the roads, it's taking in any delays, construction, accidents, and it's making a prediction that there's a better route. And I, as the human, choose whether or not to accept the recommendation to go a different direction. That's basically where we are with artificial intelligence. As amazing as this experience in 2030 sounds, and it may actually be where we end up in 2030, it's nowhere near the reality of where we are today. Where we are today is machines are getting smarter. They're able to enhance what we're capable of doing as business people, as marketers, and make predictions. So where we want to get to with autonomous vehicles is this idea of full autonomy. And this is what that looks like. And I'll show you this for a moment because it actually impacts what can happen within convenience stores. So if you've never been in a Tesla, the way the autopilot today works is it recognizes objects. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you're seeing what the computer sees. Computer doesn't know objects. It sees pixels. It sees little tiny pixels within things, and it knows zeros and ones. That's it. That's all a machine is capable of knowing. And so what they've done is they've built things called neural nets, which is actually trying to teach the computer to see, in quotation marks, what a human would see. And so you're seeing objects that are in path, objects that are out of path, lines in the road. What's happening in this vehicle is not street legal today. You can't just let the car drive itself on city streets because it doesn't yet recognize stop signs and traffic lights and things like that. But I own a Tesla. You can put in a destination, get on an on-ramp, and 2 hours later get off an exit ramp and never make a decision in the car. It will drive itself that entire way, and if you allow it to, it'll actually change lanes on its own. Now, there's a viral video from 2 days ago of a guy actually sleeping, like sound asleep in a Tesla. That is not recommended, but the way you could hack the system is all they do is require you to put pressure on the wheel. So technically, if you fall asleep with your head on the wheel, or if you have your hands on the wheel, it will continue to drive you for hours without you having to do anything. This isn't where we're trying to get to with business or with marketing. This is full autonomy. Think of AI on a spectrum of like 1 to 5, or 0 being all human all the time, 5 being this level autonomy. In the majority of business cases, we're trying to get to a 1 or a 2. We aren't trying to take humans out of the equation. That being said, when we think about the future of convenience stores, we think about the future of retail, you can only, as humans, make predictions in linear paths. All you can do is think about the things you know and the things you've already experienced and project what you think will happen in the next year or the next 3 years. Anything beyond 3 years is ludicrous for anybody to be trying to predict. The top AI experts in the world can't predict the impact AI will have beyond 3 years. They've been wrong consistently over the last decade. Things they thought would take 10 years took 10 months. Things they thought would take 1 year haven't happened yet. Nobody actually knows. But what we do know is the world is going to look very, very different. Business is going to look very different. In 2000, when I came out of journalism school at Ohio University with a marketing minor and a PR and journalism major, these are things that did not exist. So if you can't see the screen in the back, social media. Facebook was created in 2004, publicly available in 2006. Twitter was 2007, YouTube was 2005, LinkedIn was 2005. Apple made computers. Today they're going to announce iPhone 11. They didn't even have iPhones when I came out of school. It wasn't until 7 years later. So you start thinking about the transformation of the world. Like, I built an entire business and career advising companies on how to use this technology that wasn't even around when I was 21 and came out of school. This kind of innovation, as Bob said, you're going to start seeing this in month and year increments, not in decade increments. So forget 20 years. If I came back 2 years from now, there's going to be things that I could put on the screen that we don't even think about yet. So the key here is that AI, the underlying technology behind all of those innovations, is what's driving this forward, and it's accelerating it. So this is Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google and Alphabet, saying that he believes that AI is more profound at the impact it'll have on humanity than electricity or fire. And he has doubled down repeatedly on this statement. And it's not over-exaggeration. The impact it'll have will be greater than the advent of the internet itself on business and on marketing. So the key, and what I want to try and give you today in the next few minutes, is just a framework to realize it's not as abstract, as overwhelming as it may appear. It's actually a pretty easy thing to understand what it is. So the reason I spend so much time on this, one, is because I think it's going to transform the world, and I have little kids, and I kind of want to know what world I'm raising them in. Two, I run an agency that does marketing for people. And I believe that within 3 to 5 years, 80% of what we do, the activities every day we do, writing emails, coming up with subject lines for blog posts, sending emails, social media posts, advertising, all these things, machines will do the majority of that work within 3 to 5 years. Now, humans are still going to be there. I'm not going to replace my workers, but a lot of the things that we're doing, machines will assist with. This is a McKinsey Global Institute where they estimate $6 trillion in annual impact. Now, they don't give a year, but it was likely within 3 to 5 year range. $6 trillion in annual impact from AI and advanced analytics. And what you'll realize is there's this really gray area of what is and is not AI, and it's kind of a moving target. So we'll just kind of call it AI for this purpose. But you can see some of these categories are highly relevant to you as convenience store owners and executives. Pricing and promotion, by far the biggest. Humans should not be setting prices. Like, as of this moment, I can tell you right now, machines are better at predicting prices than humans are. I don't care how long you've been doing it in the industry. Customer service management, next product to buy, individualized offering. Think about the Amazonification of the offline experience, predicting what someone will buy next. I'll show you an example in a minute. Customer acquisition, marketing budget allocation, churn reduction, meaning predicting when people are going to leave a loyalty program or not be a customer, and channel management. So in the most simplistic form, AI is the idea of making machines smart. Machines know nothing. Literally out of the box, they don't know the difference between a chair and a table, a human and a telephone pole. They don't know these things. They have to be taught these things. So what AI tries to do is basically two things. The first thing is it tries to teach machines to be human-like. So it tries to give them the ability to see, to hear, to move, to understand. So when you talk to Siri or Alexa, it's hearing your voice. It's using something called natural language processing to understand what you're asking, to try and predict what you're asking and what you're looking for. So all of this technology is made possible by AI. The other and the most important thing to you is it makes predictions about future outcomes based on past data. So if you think about all the data you have, especially if you own dozens of stores, all this data can be used to make predictions. Doug's going to talk a little bit more about this in his talk. The primary type of AI is something called machine learning. And that's all you need to really know from a definition standpoint. You're going to hear AI, you're going to hear machine learning, and you might hear deep learning. Just know machine learning is the primary thing. And it's the thing that enables you to make predictions and let those predictions get smarter. The other thing is you'll use AI dozens of times today, and you're not even going to think about it. So when you watch Netflix, it predicts what shows you want to watch next. When you go to Amazon, it predicts when you're going to buy. If you're on Spotify, it predicts what songs you like. Google Maps, we talked about. All of these things are making predictions about consumer behavior. It's basically what AI is used for in business and in marketing. It makes your technology smarter. And that's really the main thing I want you to take away is when you're looking at technology for your business, think about ways you can make it smarter. If you apply AI, it can actually help you reduce costs. We were talking earlier about reduction of costs on the operations side. You can do the same thing on the marketing side. So it takes repetitive data-driven tasks and automates those. And then it enables you to drive revenue by improving your ability to make predictions about what consumers will do next. This is basically what AI comes down to. When you're thinking about it in your business, think about, is it something that's repetitive? Do I constantly do it? Do I use data, or should I be using data to make that decision about my business? If those two things are part of the equation, then it's possible that AI could actually help you do it better. And that's that last part. It does require a prediction. So a few quick thoughts about retail, and then I'll turn it over to our other panelists. This is the key point I mentioned earlier. When you think about the technology you use to run your business, the consultants you work with, the people on your team, Demand that it's smarter. Know to ask for, are there smarter ways we can do this? Forget even having to use the term AI. Just think about, is it smarter? Because if you have software now and you're the one that has to enter all the rules and tell it what to do, that's not smart software. That's relying on human intuition and expertise to try and make decisions, and there's better ways to do it. A few use cases for retailers, and there's dozens of these, but personalized offerings and promotions, in-store customer experience is a huge one. That's what Bob was kind of talking about with the augmented customer experience. Product mix optimization, trying to figure out what to carry and when and in which geographic locations, all being made by humans now. And it's not that humans can't do it, they just can't do it at scale. And they can't do it as well as when a machine assists them in doing it. Inventory management and staffing. Again, just some examples. You could go on this list. 3 quick examples. So Amazon Go. Our checkout free shopping experience is made possible by the same types of technologies used in self-driving cars. Computer vision, sensory fusion, and deep learning. So the way they're able to build these modern stores, these stores of the future, is using the technology Tesla's using to drive your car, basically. Walmart and their intelligent retail lab. With artificial intelligence-enabled cameras, interactive displays, and a massive data center, this store suggests a retail future that seems like science fiction. But 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it won't be. It'll just be commonplace. And if your store isn't doing it, consumers will know because they demand the convenience and the personalization. They get used to it. And it doesn't matter age group. Even the older age demographics get used to the convenience of these technologies. McDonald's bought a company for $300 million that we were tracking on the marketing side called Dynamic Yield. They're going to use it to predict what you want when you come up to the drive-thru. The screen at McDonald's will be customized to every one of McDonald's billion customers when they pull up based on things you've ordered previously. They'll use facial recognition of who you are. They'll predict based on weather patterns. They're going to change the way you buy because they're going to predict what you're likely to want and what people like you have wanted. So think about that if you walk in a store and you can make predictions at that level. So the thing I'll leave you with is to just be curious about this. If you read one book, Start with Human and Machine. It's from the CTO of Accenture. They talk about the implications of AI in businesses across every industry. Prediction machines also gives you the understanding of that's really all we're talking about is making these predictions. And then if you get really fascinated by this stuff and want to have your mind blown, then read AI Superpowers. There's a free guide we have, just the bit.ly, and I'll give this stuff to John so he can share it, but this is like our curated best of the best of videos, online courses, newsletters. Like if you want to actually really comprehend and go deeper, we've just curated a bunch of resources for this. So that's a free guide you can go grab, and it's actually just an HTML online thing. And then we have a conference dedicated to this topic in Cleveland. So if you, again, really want to go to the next level, you can join us there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That was great. I think after Paul talked, we all know, understand that the times they are changing, and pricing is no longer a human function. So that's a big one right there, I think, for this group. Okay, so next we have Doug with Parkland Fuels. Let's talk more about technology.
Great. You want me to use this one? Is this better?
Either one, whatever you want.
You guys hear me on this one? This one?
The lavalier mic?
No, I didn't turn that one on. I'll just use this. How's that? Use this one? That one?
He's the birthday boy. You got
Can you hear me now? So that's a great tee up. I'm going to try and convert some of that into what we call data-driven digital business. We've recently staffed this at an executive level across the company. So one of the things I would leave you with today is, this is not. We don't believe, at least in our organization, this was an area of development that our IT guys could tackle on their own, right? Because they have to make the trains run on time, right? Like POS has to work, email has to work, the phones have to ring, network has to be secure. There's a lot of mission critical duties that those guys are taking care of for us, not playing around with the latest AI and platforms that we'll talk about here in a minute. So just one of the things that we tried a couple different initiatives to try and get some of this stuff going, and it just never got priority, again, with, the duties of making the trains run on time, right? So we basically had to split it up. We hired an excellent gentleman from out of industry. He worked for Stanley Black & Decker building digital businesses using these tools prior, and it's been amazing what he's been able to do for us. So we'll talk a little bit about that. John asked that I just sort of tee up, who the heck is Parkland, since many of you probably don't know who we are. We are a Canadian company, traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, about $10 billion enterprise value. We've been public for 50 years. This is our 50th year as a public company. We do operate in 25 countries. Canada's the home market and the largest, but we are now all the way down to Suriname and Guyana on the northern coast of South America. Very excited about our Caribbean business and the growth there. And then I lead our efforts to grow in the U.S. and build a similar platform in the U.S. as to what we do in Canada. And as to what we do have about 2,600 stores, 880 of we own and operate. So we're both in the stores and supplying the stores, depending on whether it's one of our sites or a dealer site. We are kind of a throwback in many ways that we sort of do everything in downstream. So we have a refinery on the west coast of Canada that we acquired from Chevron, along with a very excellent network of Chevron stores across Vancouver, which is some of the best real estate I've ever seen. And also support the commercial part of our communities. So we do everything from home heat in the Northeast to propane for grills. So basically a lot of our theme and our culture is about supporting the local communities. One of the reasons most people don't know who Parkland is that we don't market as Parkland. So you'll see us in British Columbia largely as Chevron. You'll see us in the East as Ultramar. You might know us in the Dakotas as Farstat or Super Pumper. And we'll keep those brands that are local and relevant to our community in place, because we just don't believe today the consumer's all that interested in some corporate behemoth that feels distant and maybe malevolent, right? So we're localizing everything about our business and making it really make sure that we connect with our communities. We've learned the importance of that in the Caribbean, where we are in all these different countries with different languages and vastly different cultures, and so we're learning how to adopt what works at scale, but also how to really customize it for local deployment. The first thing I'd say about this sort of topic is one of the fundamental changes I think in terms of how you think about it is, when we think about IT, we've a lot of times thought about applications, email or your point of sale system or your back office system or your ERP system or your dispatch system or any of these systems we've used to try and automate certain portions of our business. And a lot of the work has been about the application, right? The feature function, the capabilities that it has. And really, I think the best thing that we can do to sort of adapt to some of these new opportunities is think about our data. Because now it's not so much about the application, and I'll show you in a minute how we can kind of abstract that from the discussion pretty much entirely. But it is about your data. I spent yesterday afternoon at Train's Integration Center, a couple gentlemen over here. So I didn't get to do the store tour because I was visiting with them about how much data and how much better can we get at energy consumption, energy management at all of our stores. They're seeing 15 to 30% savings if you can get control of the data and use that to control the use and the consumption. Well, I'm also interested in that. Well, can we control things like food safety better? Because if I can monitor every temperature of every roller grill, if I can monitor every temperature of every freezer, every cooler door, not only can I use that to improve my energy consumption, I can use that to improve the experience of the consumer in our store and also make sure we stay safe, right? So I think there's, they told me they're getting 3 to 4 billion data points a day into their center now on 18,000 buildings now. So, again, the ability to process data in ever greater amounts becomes really, really important. And again, that's just more on that thinking, moving from, feature function, I need to move a truck here, or I need to supply a store this, or I need to, replenish this with this supplier. All the different, I need to check out a customer. Again, all of those applications are still important. And again, I think you need to certainly make sure your team is up for supporting those. But now you need to think about all the data that's being generated by those applications and how do you get it in a place you can use it, right? Because otherwise, if it just stays siloed in all those different applications and all those different databases, you're not going to be able to build these next generation tools because they rely on using all that data that your whole enterprise is generating. So the first challenge is to think through, how do I do that and where do I put all that stuff? So one of the things I would ask you to think about is pick a stack. pick a platform and don't worry about the particular application you want to build just yet, because you probably don't know what it is. We didn't. But we knew that there are 3 stacks out there that are predominant. You just tell me how many little robots are in?
About 24.
24 in AWS, which is what we just started using, and we used a couple of those AI tools, methods, systems embedded in these stacks that we didn't have to build, we didn't have to create, we didn't have to figure out. We just put our data in there and started using them, right? So you've got Azure, which is Microsoft. We think Microsoft is going to play a big role in this. They've always been a big role in the enterprise. They have access to a lot of other data in many of our enterprises because they have other applications, and they are investing massively in this platform. Tremendous amount of business process automation type tools in this stack, and I think a pretty easy to use technical implementation that your reasonable level skill set talent can get at and use, right? So one of the things for us is, can we do things with business people that just they know what needs to be automated, they know the outcome that needs to be right, but they're not software engineers, they're not data, architects, data scientists. They definitely need support from some of those folks, but I think we are entering an era where the business folks are going to be more important in driving these solutions than the best software engineer you can find. You need both, but once you're in these platforms, the business insight becomes much more important. AWS is, of course, Amazon's. We use this to build a solution we'll talk about here in a minute. And I would tell you that we were able to build in 3 weeks what I don't think we could have built in 3 years had we used our traditional tool set. I just don't think the tool sets we were using would be capable of processing the amount of data that we shoved into the system to reach the conclusions that we needed to get at. And the third is Google, the Google stack, and he mentioned the massive investment they're making in it. They are doubling down on it. Our analysis of these 3 stacks was Google was the most technically proficient, which is not unusual for Google. That tends to be their space. But it was the hardest to understand and use. So if you're thinking about, the thing about AWS we found is for small, medium-sized businesses, we think this is a pretty good sweet spot. Pretty easy to use, has a lot of pre-built methods or pre-built tools in here that I think can get a lot done for you. They're all similar in terms of price, so price didn't seem to be a really big factor. It was more about what was the team capable of picking up and using the fastest. So we did a pilot on both Azure and on AWS. And this is, really, and that's another way to look at, where does AI really start and end? And I think, the previous advice was really good. It's more about what can it do and what repetitive tasks do you have that need to be automated? And is there a tool set that's already been built that you can just pick up and use? And, these pre-built patterns is sort of what I refer to a bunch of them as, is, they're just available, turn them on. But you have to figure out how to get your data in here first, and then you have to have a team that can orchestrate this into a solution for you. But this, a digital shopping assistant, like if you had to go build this, this would be a substantial effort to build a digital shopping assistant that can, optimize product selection, make that suggestion for, was it Hershey Dark? Yeah. Those types of special dark. You can imagine trying to code all that with a team of your own people. That's going to take a tremendous amount of time versus I can spend the time with our people coding things that are very unique to our business and that depend and rely upon a pre-built engine that's already there, right? So just an example of, kind of real life use of that. And this was, a little bit about what we tried to do was figuring out, we just didn't think we still don't think we're terribly great at pricing. We've invested a lot of money over the years in a couple different platforms to gather street price, optimize street price, think about, our position for each store on each corner with each product, and who do we match, who do we want to beat, what position do we want to have, when do we restore, how often do we mark down as soon as, the market moves, and just all those sort of, and everybody thinks they're really good at it. And what we found was when we really measured the data, none of us were very good at it. And a lot of it was bad data as well. So just the data collection process is sketchy. But then a lot of the insights that we thought we understood about pricing, and when to price, when to move, when to restore, when to discount, we're fundamentally wrong. And again, we built a tool that in a couple weeks began to consume the data from our business and show us different insights that we wouldn't have seen before. So again, I'd say, you know, it was moving to real-time decision-making. The sort of the what if and the scenario planning that we could do with this tool in real time would have taken us, you know, a month just to set up and align the data and run the scenarios in our old system. I mean, it was just that much data. And so we had to clean it out, dump other stuff out to make space, just have the processing power we needed. We don't have to do any of that now. We can just basically run unlimited scenarios in real time. It did take a dedicated team to do this, which we've talked about. But probably the key thing, that insight for us, just to make it a little bit real, is weather. So we didn't have weather feeds into our other systems. I don't know how many of you guys are using a price system that's supposed to have price elasticity curves built in and tells you if you make this choice to match this set of competitors, this is what it'll do to your gross profit and your volume. And I can tell you that, you know, we had a very sophisticated system doing that, and most of the predictions that were making were wrong to a degree. They were better than doing nothing, right, and just guessing, and they were better than just matching everybody every day. But they weren't capable of taking in other factors. And the biggest factor we found that made a bigger difference than we would have thought was weather. So we learned that when it's raining, keep your price where it's at. Because the only people that stop to fuel when it's raining is someone that really needs to fuel, right? It's not a discretionary fill up. They're not stopping for a snack. They're not stopping to get a Coke because it's raining, it's blowing and going out, and it's just not a convenient time to stop. So if they are stopping, they're going to stop at the most convenient spot that probably has the driest canopy, right, has a factor. And they're going to fuel up with the fuel that's there. That's easy to get. It's on a right-hand turn on a right corner, and they can scoot right under the canopy. So at that point in time, when that's happening, you know, lowering your price to match Costco down the street is not going to have any impact, right? And so, you know, we just didn't know that, and we couldn't see that before because we didn't have weather feeding in this. Because weather is a mass. You want to talk about big data? Like, it's any weather feed you start to feed into your systems becomes overwhelming pretty quickly. And so, you know, we were able to do that with this tool and see correlations that, you know, we were unaware of before. Just didn't occur to us that they could make that much of a difference. And we did it in British Columbia where it rains like 50% of the time. So, I mean, it makes a difference. So, you know, just a practical example of that. This is contact information for me if you guys have questions later, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A, I guess, if we have time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Doug. With respect to AI, I hope everybody understands we've just invented the wheel here. That's where we're at. We have just invented the wheel. We don't even know what its future capabilities are, but if my suspicions are correct, they are huge and overwhelming for all of us in this room and for generations to come. So, okay, next we have Pat Lewis here. Pat, come on up.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Great. See if I move that up a little bit. Is that better? All right, let me see. Make sure I got this right. I am. Right. So my name is Patrick Lewis. I'm one of my jobs is I'm a partner at Oasis Stop N Go convenience stores. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about artificial intelligence as related to something very specific, which is our loyalty program and how we utilize it, and are starting to utilize it even more in making it work. So first, a little bit about Oasis Stop N Go. We're 26 locations in southern Idaho, fuel branded, Shell and Chevron. In those, we have different food service offerings that's available. And what we're going to talk about today is our Kickback Points program, which has been implemented in our store since the year 2000. So we've got a lot of history, a lot of data, have leveraged certainly business intelligence analytics for a long time, and now just starting to get into some of the artificial intelligence. So first thing I want to say about artificial intelligence is a lot of times when people are talking about artificial intelligence, what they're really talking about is machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence. And then you'll also see a lot of people in the loyalty industry or loyalty programs talk about artificial intelligence, and sometimes they're not really even talking about artificial intelligence. They're talking about segmentation, which is been done for years, but it's really a self-directed thing. I'll get into more of segmentation in a minute. So the difference between the definition of machine learning is the machine is actually recognizing patterns in the data. So it's looking at historical data, different types of data feeds, and it's recognizing patterns and learning when it's making its predictions and recommendations to you. So that gives you a distinct advantage over historically, like the types of things you would do, which you're making predictions, you're using your common sense, your personal history, and your biases to decide what you want to do, what your next move is, whether it's pricing, offers, anything associated with your loyalty system. Sometimes you can put the data in, and if you're doing certain things like clustering or something, you'll see some patterns there that you never recognized, but they appear in the data, and it gives you a unique insight, so you can decide to do different things than you might have normally done. So just some fun facts. Looking at, let me fill all these in. 80% of enterprises already have some sort of AI, machine learning, deep learning in productivity today. This is overall enterprises, not convenience store specific industry stuff, but just overall enterprises already do. 30% are planning of expanding it, that investment in the next 36 months. And 62% of enterprises are driven to invest in new AI technologies in order to improve customer experiences. And the studies have shown that already there's some predictions that productivity is increased as much as 40% once machine learning has been implemented. So why? So first of all, when we look at a loyalty program, we're wanting to create a situation where we are delivering value to our customers, and customers are delivering value to us. And we're building a relationship with those customers that is sustainable into the future, and also creates an environment that insulates them from competitive offers, other people wanting to take our business away. So loyalty, the way we execute it, is very data-driven. There's a lot of testing. There's a lot of looking at the results, adjusting, trying again, over and over and over again. So machine learning helps Oasis do this, become much more effective and efficient in accomplishing those goals than sort of the old A/B testing. So what happens today is the computer's doing most of the work, and you can try many, many different variables and then very quickly figure out what's going to work. So it's not A/B testing necessarily. In our marketing, it might be A through Z and on testing of all kinds of different variables. And I do want to make this last point. So what we're trying to do is get the right offer to the right, at the right price, to the right customer at the right time. And every one of those elements is very important, and there are knobs and wheels and switches that you can use at every stop to refine that. So a note on segmentation. I brought it up a little bit earlier, but it's one of the most compelling uses for machine learning that we've seen. And beyond having a well-designed program, which there's a lot of components that go into that automatically build in certain types of returns on investment, the ability to get the right offer to the right customer at the right time, and using machine learning to do so is probably the second best source of ROI when you're operating a loyalty program. So that's where you get incremental gains. So you generally speaking, when you look at the performance of a loyalty program and you were looking at a chart, you would see the growth up to a point, and then it kind of plateaus because you've already picked up extra visits that customers were giving other locations. You've mitigated the defection. You've increased the ticket averages by the design of the program. If you want to get additional gains, now you need to start utilizing the data that was being collected. Now you have to look into the data and figure out how you're going to market specifically to individuals. So let's look at each component of that and try to come up with some examples. So the right offer to the right customer. So historically, identifying the appropriate offer was based on segmentation, and there was the promise for decades and decades and decades of loyalty practitioners is one-to-one marketing. I'm going to get offers that are very relevant to individual customers, and so you were limited in the data points that you could use to do your segmentation. So very often, first of all, you're using your gut. You're saying, very in the simplest example I can give. I've got customers that are purchasing fuel from me, but not coming inside the store, and the historical data is telling me that. So I want to deliver an offer to those customers to try to drive them into the store, into my other profit center, and hopefully gain a change in their behavior in the future to do that. So I'm just looking at the historical data for those types of customers, and then I'm making that assumption. I might try to go a little bit further in doing some testing to figure out what is the strength of the offer, what type of offer. I might look at things like, let's look in their market basket history and figure out what products that I think that might entice them to do that by looking at other people that display certain types of habits that are similar to theirs. Maybe I can get them to come in with an offer that's based on that. Now with big data, which is another very key component, so we have what's called a Hadoop cluster. We are putting all the information in a data lake that's a non-relational database, and we're using tools that allow us to interrogate that, and that's been a huge advent, and a huge benefactor of that is machine learning, because now we can take data in from all different types of sources and then allow it to start to create groupings and make suggestions that might be apropos to certain groups of customers or segments of customers, and do that on all different levels. So if the predictive modeling can recognize those patterns over time, and again, utilizing some additional information. And you really have to understand the big data platform a little bit more in depth, is that because you're using a data lake and you're not doing a data warehouse where I have to take all these different databases and come up with a common schema for my computers to figure out this stuff. You can just take in different data sources and put it in there, and it's actually within the query that the data scientists are actually matching things up and coming up with conclusions. And the algorithms that machine learning uses in that particular environment can take a lot of the work out. That big data environment, it doesn't have to just be your loyalty data. So we very regularly have loyalty data, full scan data in there as well. We have some demographic databases from enrollment. And then in addition to that, our Hadoop cluster has the ability to interface with over 20 different syndicated databases, credit, TransUnion, DataSift, sentiment monitors, all kinds of different information that's out there. So if we don't have enough information on a consumer to do the segmentation, we can go get it. We can get it from different sources to help refine what we're doing. Let's spotlight on the right price. So to me, this is the most important piece. The part that I'm most excited about is actually the pricing, so the offer pricing. So machine learning can be used to learn the strength of the offer, which will most likely move a particular segment. This can increase the efficiency of offers and the take rate of the offers that are sent out via different medium. It's also can be very key in price optimization. So price optimization, when it comes to loyalty, is something that we got soon after we launched our loyalty program. We started to see that there was a new dynamic at play. So prior to loyalty, you've got one price, right? You got one price on each thing that you sell, and each customer that comes through the door is going to pay that price. They're going to pay that price whether they have great price elasticity personally, or if they don't. So you're probably overcharging some customers, and necessarily you're undercharging some other customers. You have one price point. When you introduce a loyalty program, you're guaranteed to have at least 2 price points. And if you really want to get into it, you could have an infinite number of price points because the pricing is specific to the individual. So historically, there was a lot of A/B testing. There was a lot of gut feeling about what I can do on my regular retail and what offers to give the customers, because we knew something that was very, very pertinent, and that is, if you're price sensitive, if you're looking for a good deal, you're looking for value, you're going to be on the loyalty program. If you're a regular and you're going to be coming in there, you know that you can become vested in it and earn value over time, you're going to get on the loyalty program. So you're going to be paying less than somebody else. If the other group self-selects by not joining your loyalty program, right, what does that tell us about them? They're not price sensitive, right? So all of a sudden you have the ability, yeah, you're taking in all the input you can, whether it's price surveys, whatever it is, to come up with your street pricing on anything, fuel or inside. But you also have this other factor of, well, now I can do it, I can filter it down to individual employees, or customers. So with machine learning, we now know that we can bring in a lot more data and do it all at the same time, and it will learn over time. It will even learn when individual customers' price sensitivities start change. It will be able to predict what you can do, and I think this is a great opportunity. Everybody knows, if you're in this industry, that there's a correlation between price. You either want to take it in margin or you take it in volume, right? If I raise the price, the volume goes down. If I lower the price, the volume goes up. Now, what if through machine learning and through your loyalty program, you have the ability to give pricing, the right price to the right customer each time? What if you can raise your prices, raise your margins, and also raise your volume? I believe 100% that's absolutely going to be possible. And then the other thing that we look at is right time, right story. So you've got all these different ways of delivering messages to your loyalty customers. You can print things on the receipt, show things on the screen. If you're tied into digital signage, you can change the content that they might be seeing when they're standing at the pump. You have the ability, permission-based, of course, to do email communications, text communications, push to app if it's integrated into your application. All of those things will benefit, again, from machine learning. Learning what's the right time to send this. Would it be possible for studying the data, do you suppose, for machines to, just looking at your behavior over the course of several years doing business with us, do you think they could predict when your payday is? Do you think they could tell when you probably are traveling to work and when you're traveling home? Do you think they would recognize those patterns? And if it was testing offer delivery at certain times, do you think that it could figure out that, hey, if I can put in an offer just before this person leaves the house on their commute for work, I have a higher take rate. They'll accept that offer more than if I send it at any other time? And the answer is yes. It can figure all of that out. And those are things that we tried to do manually for years. And the problem with one-to-one marketing is it works, but not at any great scale. It's just too much work for humans to do. You're investing way too much time trying to do these things. But with the assistance of machine learning, that's all going to change. So let's talk about the results so far real quickly. So when we got into this, we really got into it at its early infancy. And at the time, there were very few off-the-shelf AI solutions that were available. There are some established vendors. In fact, we just made a connection with a company called Swift IQ, and we'll be doing ETL data loads to them. And we think their guys look at market basket analysis and stuff differently than our guys are looking at it. And so I think that's going to be a big advantage. I think you'll see more companies pop up that are just absolute experts in this, that you could tie your loyalty to and perhaps get advice without having to make the investment yourself. There's certainly loyalty vendors out there that have and are implementing this sort of thing. If you happen to have a data scientist schooled in Python or R in a Hadoop cluster and a data lake, there are established algorithms that are out there, so they don't have to invent the ways of looking at it. I listed a bunch of them here. I won't go into getting the weeds that far about what those things do. Some of them are very appropriate for what we do in getting information and being able to make predictions. Data integrity is very, very important. I will tell you that. It was mentioned earlier. Anybody that's an accountant understands the garbage in, garbage out. It's incredibly important that you, whether it's data you're collecting from your own sites, whether it's data you're collecting from the consumer through their enrollment or surveys or any other data source, and whether it's information that you're getting from syndicated third parties, that you have really good data going in. Data integrity, starts at the store level with regards to historical purchases. So you want to make sure that there is a compelling reason, if you have a loyalty program, that your customer is swiping that card every single time. I need this whole picture of what they've been doing. I can't just have a partial picture of it. So if you struggle in, I'm in Indiana, I don't think I can award on cigarettes, or maybe there's some laws, you better figure out a way to get them to swipe in anyway, because we need to know this information so we can market to them effectively. Otherwise, you'll get people in segments where they don't belong, and you really need to be careful of that. Another thing is incrementality in your rewards. This is another thing that we figured out. If you're doing like maybe a program that just rewards somebody on the visit, but that's fine. But if you want to, once you get all this data and you're trying to do control your offers, the pricing, right? You're affecting that through discounts or points or additional rebates on fuel or something, right? And you have to be able to have incrementality. You got to be able to do a little bit on individual products. And if you're doing a big thing on a whole visit, that can make it difficult. And also, where possible, even if it's very little, figure out how you can reward on every product that the government will let you award on. It's going to be very advantageous when you start taking the results of machine learning data and recommendations and then go to implement it. If you don't have that incrementality, you'll find that, gosh, there's really not much I can do here with this. So key important piece. And this is all still in its infancy, as was mentioned. I don't know where it's all going to go. Like I said, I'm mostly excited about price optimization and leveraging my loyalty program as a one-to-one tool on that. But there's bound to be other elements of the loyalty program and in general marketing that are going to benefit from machine learning in the future. And it's just a little bit of a Wild West show out there right now with people trying things and experimenting and it's relatively expensive right now, but like everything else, as we learn things, prices come down, more best practices emerge, and there'll be more success stories out there. And I'll finish this up with one final thought. This is really a sexy thing to talk about and exciting and everything, but so far what I've seen is it is really giving you a refined look at your consumers, and you can get very specific offers, but the biggest lift that you can get is still coming from the basic segmentation that we've always been doing. Just the low-hanging fruit so far has been just identifying customers that aren't shopping in certain profit centers and marketing to those. So I know there's more value in the granularity of it. Just haven't touched on those points, haven't discovered them yet. So we're still experimenting to try to find some of those. And again, I think it's going to be in the pricing is where we're going to find the biggest gains at all. Thank you.
So thank you, Pat. I don't know where it's heading either, but real-time, dynamic, individualized pricing should be something that every single person in this room should be enthusiastic about, because I do believe that that will come at some point in the future. John, I think we're a little over, aren't we, right now? Okay. Okay, so I guess John says it's okay to take a couple of questions. We've got some big minds up here, so go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to ask, who in your organizations do you feel like should lead the charge when looking at AI technologies? I guess I look at it from resell software, AI software, to competing stores. It's a very different conversation, I feel personally, with each organization that you opt with, whether it's Parkland with 20 stores or Parkland with 600 stores or somewhere in between. Do you feel like there should be one, should it be the head of IT or the CIO, or is it the ops team? Who is the point person that you think should be one parent actually making the decision-making process with all these future capabilities?
I'll just say real quick, our experience, and not specific to convenience stores, is the data scientists, the IT, are going to be the ones driving the solutions. They're going to be the ones to figure out how to make it work. It's often a business problem or challenge or a business case that's led by an executive that sees the global picture of the business that says there's got to be better ways to do this. So it can be brought up from the data scientists and the IT team, but it generally is a business driven, and it should be. AI should solve business problems. It shouldn't just be AI for AI's sake.
Yeah. With us specifically, it ended up in marketing because we felt like that was the, and they were willing to go first and sort of try to build some of these things and prove it out. But I think it'll move from marketing to supply. We've got just as much optimization on cost as we do price. So I think there's additional incremental there, but it'll be a business leader that drives it. It won't be an IT project, I guess is the way to think about it. It's not like those guys aren't going to play a role. They're going to be incredibly important, but they aren't up against the business problem that's right in front of us that to see it, what needs fixed now and what could get better tomorrow.
I think they're focused on keeping the trains on time every day. Like they're not stepping away at a retreat for 4 days and saying, how do we take a leap?
I think that another way of looking at it too is companies that have enough scale and resources obviously can be interested in it, and there may or may not be the solutions in the marketplace for them. So if you have somebody like Doug that's an innovator and a pioneer in it and has a good understanding, then yeah, they're going to be able to put together some folks to go ahead and do it. But I think for most retailers, if you look at the entire industry, 150,000 locations, over 50% of them single store operators. It's very bifurcated. So for most people in our industry, small chains as well, I think you're going to look for solution providers that are including and engaged in machine learning in their solution and benefit from that. Going out and trying to do it on your own at this point would be very, very expensive and have a very long learning curve, quite frankly, to do it when there's some good vendors out there that are making the investment on your behalf and the entire industry. And so I think that's where you're going to find those solutions. But it is good to be versed in it, understand the value of it, certainly, and why it's important. So when you're looking at different vendors to solve different business cases for you, you can know which ones are probably headed down the right path and which ones aren't.
Go
Hi,
ahead.
just for preface, I work for a loyalty company as well that provides loyalty, and I'm a big proponent of influencing behavior. But would you guys say, just thought experiment here, is it fair to say that capitalism today is stifling innovation in technology? At the end of the day, I mean, do we want to know what a millennial had for dinner, or do we want to get influence on what bag to buy or what chocolate bar to get? Just a thought experiment here. And how do you audit your data inputs?
So the question is capitalism?
Capitalism stifling technology?
Innovation.
I'm not connecting on that one, personally.
My thought would be it's just the opposite. I think capitalism is encouraging technology.
Yeah.
It's finding new use cases and new ways to generate revenue and new ways to satisfy the customers that we're trying to please. And so I would say it's just the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happening is you have every major platform company in the world, every major tech company is actually a data company. So why would Amazon buy Whole Foods? Well, because Amazon already knows everything you do online. Now they know your purchasing behavior offline. Why would why would they buy Nest? To have cameras in your house and introduce ways to monitor your behavior. And
to make money.
So exactly, and
Right.
at the core, to collect more data to make more money.
Right.
So the better they can predict consumer behavior, that's the arms race we're in society, is massive corporations are finding innovative ways to collect data on you to make better predictions that they can monetize or that they can resell, someone else can monetize.
I think it's also just I'm trying to process the way you're looking at things, and it's hard for me. So I don't, the make money comment, to make money. Well, I don't know any way to make money unless I provide service to somebody else, and they agree that it was service, and they give me the money for it. So I don't think that capitalism per se is stifling it, and these types of things. And sure, there's a scary piece to that. And I don't know if that's what you're getting at, but you just scared me on cameras in the house and stuff like that. So there's some spooky stuff, and there are some things that might be greed motivated that aren't transparent. Those are things that need to be addressed, and they're not right. But when we're doing analyzation and figuring out the right offer to get to the right customer at the right time, it's right for them too. It means that they're going to get an offer that's apropos. It means something. The value is going to be recognized. The product that I'm offering them up is something that I know that they could use, or they've bought in the past and they like. So as opposed to not having that technology to do that, then it's more of the shotgun blast, and there is no specificity to the offers you're delivering people. And to me, that's far more annoying. That's junk mail, to me. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Pat, you made a point about most companies our size, or most small to mid-sized retailers, aren't going to have the resources internally to have their own data science department and to leverage outside companies, which makes a lot of sense. And Doug, it sounds like you have a data science department in your company. Is that correct? What's the data science department look like in your company? And if you were advising a 50, 100 store chain to start a data science department, what type of position would you start with?
Right now for us, we started with, I think Anil has 8 folks on his team, but it's largely, now there's a bunch of consultants. So I think you have to start with one key person. I think they have to be sponsored at an executive level. I think they have to be free of the daily encumbrance of IT, right? They have to be very technical. They may be an IT person, but they aren't involved in making the trains run on time every day, because that's a mission critical job that that's the fire that has to be put out, right? Like, I don't ever get to build the addition on my house because I got a fire on the other end. If I don't put it out, my house burns down, and the addition's not worth a damn thing. So, it's like you've got to separate those duties and make it clear that that person has a clear mission, clear sponsorship as an executive level, and the ability to gather resources, likely consulting resources to start. I wouldn't say go build your own team of 10 people. Just access the right sources in the marketplace. But I would say have your own leader, right? And it's likely that they are a combination of a technical person who understands data and analytics, but also a business person that's been close enough to business problems to understand how to apply the tools to solve problems.
It's a really hard person to find, but that is the ideal person.
But that right? That's the Superman you're looking for. So I think that's the most important place to start, but it is the hardest to find. It took us 6 to 9 months of looking, and we interviewed probably 50 or 60 different leading candidates after screening a couple hundred.
And it won't be cheap, and that's why the consultant route is a logical, even as a stopgap. Find a great consulting firm that can get you to that hire, because it will take a while.
And any of you guys that have kids that are getting ready to go into college, encourage them to become data scientists. There's a huge shortage there. And I want to just add to Doug's point. If you want to actually do it, like get in there and do it. Another thing besides executive sponsorship, which you have to be bought into it. There's going to be some money spent there. You have to believe that you're going to get that return. But also give whomever you have doing this a certain amount of autonomy, because historically it's not machine learning, it's It's people learning. And so you have the CEO who wants this data point yesterday, and that's every day, always. And they are in their mind saying that they want this is this important thing. But when you get somebody that does have the requirements, the business knowledge of the business and knows how to play with the data, and just let them follow their nose a little bit, because there's a lot of tools, algorithms that machine learning is going to teach you something that you didn't know before. So you can't just always be asking, answer this question and here's the parameters. Let them have a little autonomy and play around with it, and they will bring you back some nuggets.
That's a great point. When we turned Danil loose, we didn't direct him. We gave him access and said, look at supply, look at pricing, look at sales, look at marketing, look at logistics. You tell us what's the best answer. And he took about 3 months to do that and came back and said, we're starting pricing. And so he did, and so far, and now we're like, okay, we're very interested to see what we're going to do next, right? Because the results were pretty exciting.
Well, Paul, Doug, Pat, great conversation, and we thank everybody for listening. We hope you stay tuned, because there is a whole lot more to come on this topic as our lives move forward. Enjoy the rest of the conference, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.